So members of Scottish regiments are proud to call themselves Jocks. This is actually true.
You knew that already because I told you, didn't I? You're watching The Right Stuff with Dr. David Bull, Heather Small, and Crodmandoon and the Flaming Sword of Firestar, Sean McGuire. And you have an apology to make,
yes,
don't you?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I'd like to apologise to Meteor Boy because apparently I've made light of this. And obviously this is a very real and very serious story because, as I just read, it bounced off his hand and left a metre-wide crater.
So
and apparently that he is not a liar. Right. And I want to say that this is valid and true. And I'm really sorry, Meteor Boy. It sounded fictitious to me. I don't know what I was thinking. This is clearly true, and what a lovely boy. Indeed. And I hope he's got through his ordeal. I really do.
That's enough of the apologies. That's enough of the apologies. Still to come on this show, are women shunned by society if they don't want kids? Maybe breeders are jealous of the fact that child-free women are having lots of fun, not stuck at home changing nappies. Maybe you think it is indeed unnatural for a woman, nature's nurturers, I keep saying, not to want children. 0207 173 5555 is the number if you've got something to say.
Apologise to him as well?
No, we don't have to apologise to the tall guy, no. Car-thieving tall guy, he gets what he deserves in prison. First, is Jock a racist slur? Scottish pilot Douglas Morn reckons it is. He's alleged racial discrimination against British Airways after a letter he wrote to a staff magazine prompted responses he deemed to be racially abusive. One came from a fellow pilot who allegedly wrote, "Will all jocks F off to that welfare state paid for by the English middle classes? Please say yes." Well, there's a lot more to the case than that, which doesn't concern us either, as we're now trying to settle the dispute. I only want to know if jock is a racist term like the N-word. It's been used for hundreds of years as a nickname for John or Jack or as slang for a soldier or sailor. And as we've heard, many Scottish regiments, including the magnificent Black Watch, still proudly call themselves jocks. So does it all boil down to the context in which it's used? Implying Scotland is a welfare state funded by the English isn't very nice, but then the government does indeed spend £2,000 more per head on public services north of the border than it does in the south. Wow. Am I naive in thinking that we're all friends these days? Jocks, taffs, paddies, softs, southern, shandy-drinking Sassenachs. And as friends, can't we take the mick out of each other?
What's a softy, shandy, sacking knacker? That's not even... You're just making this up.
It's a different situation for those, I would argue, who've come to this country, say, over the last 100 years or so. Asian people, Afro-Caribbean people. The abuse dished out to them at times has been appalling, and laws were needed to protect them. Now, British Airways vigorously denies this pilot's claim and says it takes reports of racist behaviour extremely seriously. The case continues, and it will be up to the tribunal to decide its outcome. But I say again, I'm not really interested in the case. I just want to know what you think, whether terms like jock, taff, paddy are racist. Eric hit the streets to find out.
I'm a McClure, I've got Scottish descent, and I don't regard it as an insult.
It all depends on how it's actually said. You know, if that person particularly is angry or whatever, then obviously, yeah, it's meant in an offensive way.
I think that basically something like Mick and Taff and Jock is a harmless bit of fun, really.
I'm a northerner and I get called a northerner all the time. I don't find it at all offensive.
I think everyone's got their own local terms for other people they live with, and I think it should be just taken as that.
To me, it's not really racist, but it always depends on the person that is on the receiving end of it. If they take it as to be racist, then obviously it can be justified.
I think it's fascinating. Now, I'm sure I hope we're going to hear anyway from the Scottish viewers in a moment. I'm going to start with you, Sean.
I'm going to say something daft to get myself in trouble. Go to Heather, she's much cleverer.
We're going to start with you.
Okay.
You're the superstar. So, what do you think?
Well, me personally, I'm of Irish descent, grown up in England, and now I live in America. I don't really fit in anywhere. So when I'm in England, I'm a plastic paddy, and when I go to Ireland, I'm a British bastard. So I don't take it.
We have to say daytime TV.
Sorry. I meant bastard. Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that. So I personally don't take any of it too seriously.
There's nothing funny laughing in your fellow panellist's misery. Yeah?
But you know, we were just saying while they were showing the VT, I think it's about intent. I think it's, you know, we say let's all go out for a drink for Paddy's Day. That's hardly really offensive. Yeah. It's about if somebody says you something, and then they say that. it's about the intent, I think. But I think that there is a big difference between, as you just said earlier, I think for people of Asian descent or Afro-Caribbean descent, that I think you do take it more seriously. But it's down to the individual. I'm not. It's too controversial a topic, and I don't want to say anything wrong.
OK, Heather, where do you stand on this?
Well, I don't know if it's racist, but it can be taken as offensive. And I think if you offend somebody... regardless of the term,
taking offence. One of the most fashionable things. Yes, everybody's offended by everything.
Yeah, but not really, because like you said before, people of Asian, Chinese, Afro-Caribbean descent, especially when my mother came at a time when they did even have no blacks, no Irish, and no dogs.
Yeah. No actors sometimes as well. I fit all of them.
So. For me, it is a very sensitive subject because I think I've been to friends' houses, especially when I was far younger in the 70s, and their intent wasn't
malicious.
But the effect on me was definitely offensive, and because they'd grown up using certain terms, they deemed them to be
But do you think? You see, I would argue that immigrants, new arrivals in the country, need protection. We've had ongoing disputes with the Scottish for as long as there has been a British Isles. The United Kingdom is, in essence, the unification of Scotland and England, Wales. And I think the most wonderful thing about great relationships between countries, and I think we share the same thing with the Australians, is that you can take the mick out of each other. And it's a unifying force. And I find it...
sometimes can be a unifying force, but, I mean, I've been to Scotland, and I've heard that they speak about the English, so I'm not too sure whether everybody has this kind of unifying feel.
In the last World Cup, there was a story of the English kid getting beaten up by some Scots because he was running around wearing an England football top. So it does cut both ways. But a act of violence on somebody that is clearly wrong. The word jock, David?
I think this is all getting out of control. I don't think it's offensive at all, actually, partly because Scottish people call themselves jocks. A lot of my friends call themselves jocks.
But then black people can use the N-word on themselves,
well, I was
going to
say, but also, what's the difference between that and a Cockney and a Liverpudlian and all those other things? And I actually think, I know you didn't really want to mention it, but I actually think devolution is incredibly divisive. The beauty of the United Kingdom is when we are all one. And the biggest issue has become the separation of
the reason we
those
have devolution, isn't it, is because amongst other things, Mrs Thatcher experimented on the Scots, doing things like the poll tax, were tested on Scotland first of all.
It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing.
And of course, we robbed you of all your oil and North Sea gas.
It's nothing to do with that whatsoever. As you know, I think there is a real issue here, which, as you say, under the Barnett formula, you get more per capita in Scotland than you do in England, and that is leading to rising resentment in England. This is a bad thing because I think when we go back to the days of building a wall between England and Scotland, which may well happen if
which the Italians did.
But anyway, the point is, the United Kingdom is called that for a reason, which we're united. And I think we also need to learn to have a sense of humour and to be and to adopt that sort of friendship.
But just one thing that you said, about you saying the N-word and like some black people use that. But you know what? There's a tiny little section of the community that would use that word to, there is absolutely no way I would use that. So, it's...
OK. Time is short. Let's throw it open to you. Let's hope we've got some Scottish viewers out there.
We've got Sharon. She's Scottish. She's on line 3.
Morning, Sharon.
Morning.
Are you offended?
No, not at all.
Good.
Good.
Right, thanks for calling.
That's normally what I do. Do you know of any fellow Scots up there that might be offended by something like this?
They might be. I live in England and I get it a lot, but it doesn't. I think it's about how you say it, not in the context it's used. Some
how
would
you
offend people. If someone just said, "Hey, Jock," I wouldn't be offended. If someone called me a stupid Jock, I might be offended.
Right. OK. But then you might be offended if someone called you stupid.
Yeah.
So
the jock, offended at the stupid,
It's the jock bit is immaterial. It's the like in this case the F off. The F off bit is the bit
what precedes it.
Yeah.
Sharon, thank you. Bless you. Let's have another, please.
Frances is in Aberdeen. She's on line 2.
Francis, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you be offended if I called you Jock Francis?
No, not at all.
Good.
I don't find it offensive. I think it's just PC gone mad, and I believe if people want to go down that route, then that's what's going to happen. People are going to find it offensive because we've gone this PC mad world, and so they'll find it offensive.
The trouble with asking this question to Right Stuff viewers is you're all such a sensible lot. It's probably hard to find anybody that will be offended, but thank you. Let's have another.
You want to find someone who's offended?
Well, ideally, yeah.
Controversy.
Then we can have a bit of a battle, a Barney.
Una is on line 1.
Una, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you be offended if I called you Una the Jock?
No, I would not.
Rats.
I think that the sense of humour is sadly lacking. You know, if they actually feel that jock is an offensive term.
Do you think it's... I mean, can I push this a bit further and say, would you consider it a term of endearment?
I do. I think it is a term of endearment. I lived in South Africa for a few years. And if you want to talk about racism and racist terms, my God, dreadful place. But anyway, I worked in a pharmacy, and my boss used to call me Una the Jock. And he was just the absolute best boss you could ever have. And was I going to take offence at that? I thought it was hilarious.
Good. Una, thank you very much for the call.
Hasn't she got a lovely voice?
She has.
I could listen to Una all day.
It's like a lovely aunt. I just, yeah, fantastic. But that's done. Anyway, we'll move on to something which I think is slightly more controversial. It's slightly more difficult to come to some kind of a union on, and that is women shunned by society if they don't want children. Of my friends, I said earlier, only a couple are child-free out of choice. And yes, they say other women in particular do treat them coldly. They make assumptions such as, oh, maybe left it too late and all that. And maybe breeders are jealous of the fact that these women are living the life, not stuck at home changing nappies. Maybe you think it is unnatural for a woman not to want children. Whatever your view, we want to hear it. 0207 173 5555 is the number if you've got something to say, and we'll take as many calls as we can after the break.
What percentage of fertile women in their 40s wouldn't be bothered if they couldn't have kids? 14, 34 or 74? Find out after the break.